Hello, everybody. Thank you for having us. Very excited to be here. And as a guy from Ireland, I'm not built for this heat, so please bear with us. I'm Andrew. I'm an investor at Activant Capital, based in the US, but originally from Ireland. And I'm joined today by my good friend and one of the great global entrepreneurs, Zhang, founder of Airwallex. So we'll just kick off with a little bit of intro. So Jack, maybe just give us a little color on what Airwallex does as a business.
Thanks, Andrew. It's great to come to Ascend. Airwallex is a global payments and banking platform that we service about over 200,000 businesses around the world. Started the company in Melbourne, Australia a decade ago. Now we have about 2,500 people globally in 26 offices.
Nice. And give us a sense of scale as to like how much money you're moving and that kind of stuff.
So Airwallex now is on the track to do about $2 billion in revenue, processing $500 billion in payment volume. And the company now have expanded to across APAC, Europe, and North America. And we're still kind of growing about 80% year on year at scale.
Amazing. One of the themes that every entrepreneur thinks about when you build a company is the resistance, the market you're entering and the incumbents that exist. Jack is building a company on extra hard mode in a market with maximum resistance. Jack, as you started building Airwallex, what was it about this market that you felt was most compelling? Like, why did you start the company in this space?
I think it's extremely difficult to start a company, a startup in Melbourne, Australia, because it's not really a tech ecosystem there. And I was running a small business, a coffee shop, that we experienced a real problem of making international payments. It's expensive, it's slow, it's inefficient. So we thought, there must be a better way to do global payments, and that's kind of how Airwallex was born in the first place. And in the last decade, we went on a journey to acquire licenses in over 70 countries around the world, connect to the central bank, connect to the local banking system to essentially build a parallel money movement network in parallel to SWIFT.
Yep.
And it's probably not the most intuitive way of building a business, but I think that's kind of really give us the mode and a defensive ability in the age of AI that are able to continue to scale the business like after a decade.
Yeah. So why is it important? Just like, why did you go down this path of building a regulated business in a compliant way? Could you have done it other ways? Like, obviously, stablecoins are a conversation that everyone's talking about today, thinking about the alternative payments. Like, what is it that this maximum resistance path is unlocked that you couldn't do otherwise?
I think like a lot of people in the sort of stablecoin space talk about it's the easiest way to move money around the world, and it's real time, it's free, but they haven't really talked about the speed of on-ramp and off-ramp, the liquidity issues, and etc. And the regulatory challenges and the entire sort of infrastructure that to support to deliver payment to the physical world.
Yeah.
I think it's extremely important to understand where your company is heading to and what is the kind of core mode that you are building. Airwallex, we really kind of focus on not just moving money in the sort of virtual world, which is easy to achieve, but it's about actually delivering the money in the physical world that in a regulated way. As we kind of see these changes in the sort of payment landscape around the world, that we're able to adapt to these changes in each of the local markets and integrating with this local payment system so that we can building a kind of global payment network ourselves so that not only it's not disrupted by these innovations in the payment space, but able to actually creating compound value over a long period of time.
Yeah. I mean, we invest a lot in B2B companies, and the word infrastructure gets thrown around all the time. I think this is a big distinction that gets missed by many people in this industry. The other word that gets thrown around a lot of time is platform, right? So infrastructure and platform. Airwallex, because we've been close to the business. We know how much of a platform effect you can have as you sort of add products, but maybe describe to everyone here what it means to build a platform company and like how Airwallex has built a multi-product platform on top of the infrastructure and like what that all means for your customer.
When we started a company, we just wanted to solve a single problem, which is moving money in the most sort of cost-effective and efficient way around the world. But as we expanding the platform, we're looking at what other adjacent product we can add on top of the platform.
Yeah.
And the very intuitive way is building a digital bank on top of our money movement infrastructure. So we started business account to servicing SMBs, but we also later on expanded to payments, expanded to spend management, corporate card, and expanded to other adjacent financial services. But our core acquisition motion is always on business account, which even today driving 90% of the customers' acquisition.
Right.
But to able to expand the revenue per customer, we kind of added payments and spend management on top of that. And from 2020, we spent about 80% of the company's budget to build this new product, which is a massive bet. But ultimately, 5 years later, now that's driving about 60% of the company's revenue.
So so when did you see in the journey that sort of compounding start to happen? So give us a sense of numbers, like what percentage of customers are using multiple products today, and then when did that ramp up or scale up really happen?
About 80% of the company's revenue driving by customers that are using multiple products now. About 50% of the customers on the platform using 2 or more products across the platform.
Yep.
And we're able to driving the customers sort of revenue per customer from about $5,000 to about $13,000 over a 3-4 year period of time.
Yeah.
And with AI sort of democratizing the vertical software in the office of CFO, that we see a path of going to about 20,000 per customer in the next 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
And that kind of keep compounding together with our goal to getting to 1 million customers by 2030 as well. So that's kind of how we're creating this North Star of revenue acceleration in the sort of even in a hyperscaler stage.
Yeah. So we'll get maybe back to the AI in the office of the CFO in a second, but we had an interesting conversation recently about the fact that Airwallex was built API first and what that means for the future of agentic commerce and the future of AI software in general. Could you maybe share some context around sort of how you view AI as it relates to both building internally at Airwallex and sort of what that means, and then also for your customer in the future? Like, what does AI commerce even mean, or AI finance even mean?
I think, as you can see, that there used to be a lot of vertical softwares in many industries around the world. In Office of CFO, there used to be 20, 30 finance software in procurement, expense management, vendor management, FP&A, accounting, revenue recognition. So there's like 20, 30 multi-billion-dollar companies sharing a revenue pool of a few $100 billion around the world.
Yep.
AI essentially democratizing that vertical discipline into a single addressable market, because that's kind of naturally how AI and agent works. And this entire Office CFO evolving to a single product, which is we call financial operating system, that not only replacing the dozen sort of vertical softwares in this space, but also the $10 trillion sort of finance knowledge workers around the world.
Yep.
So that essentially you're not only seeing a concentration of play, but at the same time you're seeing this massive TAM expansion to finance knowledge workers. Essentially, more than half the folks in the office of CFO or the finance team going to be replaced by agents and autonomous sort of AI processes. And so in this scenario, essentially, it's not only important to kind of accelerating the velocity to hopefully to kind of competing and win, because the price to win just got 10 times bigger.
Yep.
But also the competition kind of become a lot more intense than the past as well, because the number of players that can win is also getting more concentrated. You have to have a very strong moat to be able to compete in this space.
Yeah. So Airwallex is built to a massive scale already, well over $1 billion of run rate revenue and far more this year. But you've also done it very efficiently as an investor in the business and seeing how efficient you guys run, the number of people you have relative to your scale. How do you think about scaling and building your own team in this world, AI native Airwallex, and what does efficiency and what does quality look like in hiring new talent and scaling your business?
I think with AI that it sort of democratizing most of sort of the product development, engineering productivity actually went through the roof, and you have this opportunity to build all your internal product, all your internal teams as a product.
Yep.
We used to use Salesforce or CRM, use Mercado for marketing automation. We use a bunch of humans in the revenue operation team to do our go-to-market. But with AI, that essentially you can build a kind of go-to-market operating system essentially that leveraging the model, leveraging the internal contacts and the proprietary knowledge that you have in the company to creating a go-to-market machine that I would say at least sort of 50% automated to not only to outreach to customer, but also creating a more efficient funnel to converting customers through the funnel. I think that ultimately allow you to build a go-to-market machine that much faster at a much sort of efficient way. Obviously that in a sort of high growth startup, we're looking at not only just efficiency, we're also looking at the growth of the top line. So you kind of need to find a balance in between these two, not only just optimizing the efficiency, but also looking at a balance between your top line growth and how efficient you're growing.
Yeah. If you were to build a company, if you were to start Airwallex today, what would you do differently?
I think one thing is kind of brand building. I think especially with AI, it's a lot easier to build a product nowadays than 10 years ago. It's harder to differentiating building a business than ever. So the velocity of building is important, but more importantly, you have to start thinking about building a brand from day one.
Yeah.
Where we started like in Melbourne and we didn't really understand this 10 years ago, and we started quite late building our brand. But it took a while for us to understand how important to building a brand, because that not only help you to creating a more efficient top of the funnel, but also that have profound impact to the middle of the funnel and the bottom of the funnel when you're actually doing go-to-market around the world. And from about 3 years ago, we start spending 10 times more amount of capital to do sponsorship, to do a lot of these brand events, brand activities, work with celebrities. So, and then a lot more focus on social media as well. And that ultimately able to help us to expand our go-to-market in multiple markets around the world. And I would basically spend a lot more effort on brand and then thinking about what's the kind of category you are in, and how do you creating this winner in that specific category early on that will give you a lot of advantages as you scale the business in later stage of the company.
Yeah. I mean, 2 observations on this point. Number one, any team you sponsor seems to crush it. So McLaren, now Arsenal, as Premier League champions. And number 2, I do think, though, the infrastructure you built is so differentiated that you could have built a brand, but without that, it didn't mean anything. So on the point of building brand, though, right, I spend about half of my time in San Francisco, in Silicon Valley. Jack, you've built a global business from day one. You've been an outsider from day one. What has that been like? What has that journey been like? What advice do you give to folks in the room who are building companies from Europe as they think about expanding globally? And yeah, curious on your take.
I think it's a lot harder to build a company outside of Silicon Valley. And we started in Australia, expanded to other APAC markets, and expanded to UK, Europe, and North America much later. Especially we start pushing aggressively into the US market, start competing with Stripe and with Ramp, with other folks that already kind of creating a big brand in the market. Is quite an upper battle to do that. And in Silicon Valley, you kind of have to play the Silicon Valley game. You have to really focus on your presence on X and be able to demonstrating your product quality able to creating this brand halo to attract the best talent and the best sort of engineers in the Valley. And then because Silicon Valley have a profound impact to the rest of the world, as people look up to Silicon Valley thinking about the best company built out of there. But what people don't realize is that not in Silicon Valley will give you time to creating this positive mastery system, that building a real mode that Silicon Valley company probably can't be bothered to do, or taking too long or too hard to build. That also that you attract less attention as well, so that you can leveraging this advantages outside of Silicon Valley to build a strong mode before you actually expand it to the US market. And it is a lot difficult to take the company from the ground up. It's a lot harder to raise capital. But if you're able to do that, if you're able to build a big business out of a small market that with a global vision, and to attracting top talent in that small market, I think it ultimately built more resistance in the company that help you to, to go back to competing in the largest market later on.
Yeah. So, path of max resistance. I think it covers a lot of things. Building a company in the first place, building it globally, building it infrastructure first, building it regulatory and compliance first. But you've also had multiple points in this journey that, you sit here today with an incredibly successful company serving thousands of customers, hundreds of thousands of customers, but there has to have been moments that were really hard, moments that you didn't think it was going to work, moments that you almost died. You had moments where you almost got bought for well over $1 billion, right? Like, give us a sense for why you kept going, why you didn't take those paths. Like, why are we sitting here today talking about Airwallex this way?
I think founders essentially professional athletes in business. As a founder, I wanted to be playing in the sort of most elite competition in the world, which is, if you play tennis, you want to play with Djokovic, you want to play with Sinner, and in a sort of business world that you want to, in the basketball, you want to play in the NBA. In the business world, you want to competing with the best folks in the sort of the technology world. That's basically what motivates me to continue to compete, continue building. If there's anything that I would even like the intensity, like the competition a lot more today than back many years ago, because you are playing in a much bigger space. You're competing with the best company in the world, and that really sort of motivates me as a founder. Yeah,
well, it motivates me just to be around you, and I'm incredibly grateful to be a partner with Jack on the journey. And for anyone who's building globally, check out Airwallex. It's the backbone of a lot of the best companies in Europe. So thank you for joining us. Thank you, Jack.